Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Answering Bart Ehrman, where we read our way through one of Bart's popular books, in this case, Jesus Interrupted, and we look at each of his arguments page by page. And today, Matthew, what are we looking at?
Yeah, we're in a section. The last few episodes, we've been looking at other small examples of alleged discrepancies in the life of Jesus, the way it's recorded in the New Testament. So we're up to like the fourth or fifth one of those.
Yes.
And it's called Who is for Jesus and Who is Against Him? So he's drawing attention to contrast between two passages in the sayings of Jesus here. So, yeah, let me read that.
Yep.
He says, some sayings of Jesus are rendered in similar but nonetheless divergent ways. One of my favorite examples is this phenomenon is the pair of sayings related in Matthew 12:30 and Mark 9:40. In Matthew, Jesus declares, whoever is not with me is against me. In Mark, he says, whoever is not against us is for us. Did he say both things? Could he mean both things? How can both be true at once? Or is it possible that one of the gospel writers got things switched around? Similar sounding saying, two different kind of opposite meanings.
Yeah, so in the Matthew one, he's saying this phrase sort of in one direction. In Mark, he's saying the phrase sort of in an opposite direction.
Yep.
Now, again, as with all of these issues that Bart brings up, just reading in context actually answers the question, because in this case, they are two completely different situations. So, Bart would have a point if Matthew and Mark were both recording the same situation and Jesus said opposite things, but he's actually recording two different situations and says something appropriate for each. So let's have a quick look at them.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is in Matthew.
Oh, that's the Mark one.
That's the Mark one. So I'll go back to here. Then a demon-oppressed man who was blind and mute was brought to him, and he healed him, so that the man spoke and saw. And all the people were amazed and said, "Can this be the son of David?" But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, "It is only by Beelzebub, the prince of demons, that this man casts out demons." And then we have Jesus. He says a whole lot of things, but then he finishes by saying, "Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters." So the context there is that's when Jesus is casting out a demon, and people are saying, "You're doing this by the power of demons." Okay. The
and
one in
Jesus
Mark
sets up two sides. Yeah. Yep. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. And so in Mark, it's John said to him, "Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him because he was not following us." But Jesus said, "Do not stop him, for no one who does a mighty work in my name will be able to afterwards speak evil of me. For the one who is not against us is for us." So they're completely different situations.
They are, yes.
And really, I can't even see what Bart Ehrman's going on with here. They're just different situations, different contexts. And Jesus gives this proverbial type of statement, which is true, for each one.
It's a movie made a couple of episodes ago with the baptism incident, I recall. He assumed that two things that sounded like they were talking about similar things about the next day incident must be talking about the same event. And it mentioned the baptism, therefore it's the same event. But anyway, it's a similar thing here. Two things sound the same, so he assumes they must be the same events being recorded, but one of them's got it wrong, or at least one of them's got it wrong. And it just doesn't follow. Like Jesus can say similar sounding things, and teachers typically do actually. They use material over and over again and use similar sayings in different ways. I was struck. There is something funny about this way of speaking, though, because it does sound. This isn't a natural way of speaking to people I hang out with, but instead of a sort of a Hebrew Old Testament, by that era Jewish mindset, I think it is pretty normal to use these kind of phrases in kind of artful ways, because Jesus does use the same sort of phrase here to make kind of opposite points at different times. So I was reminded of like another example of that, where it sounds like it's a contradiction, but it's just making a particular kind of point. So like in Proverbs 26, it says, sequentially, it says both things. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, or he'll be wise in his own eyes. And that's next to each other. And you go, wow, it's a contradiction. It must have been messed with, or he doesn't know what's going on. But it's using phrases in a striking way to make a particular point. And they're both situation specific things. Like there's times to answer the fool and there's times not to answer the fool is kind of how it works. So I find it easy to believe with that kind of approach to sayings and to wisdom kind of sayings that Jesus could use the whoever is with me or not against me kind of phrase in a couple of different ways at different times. It's I don't see any problem with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that Proverbs example you gave is a great one, where the book of Proverbs is about wisdom and knowing when to answer the fool, knowing when to not answer the fool, and that's the wisdom, isn't it? And Jesus is speaking in these phrases, which are similar sounding phrases, but he applies them differently to different contexts. Look, I don't think there's much more we need to say to that, except, Matthew and Mark are not talking about the same event. They're talking about completely different events. And Jesus just gives a response to each one. There's absolutely no problem here at all. And for Bart Ehrman to be trying to create the impression that this is a contradiction is just really dishonest, to be honest. It's just dishonest. So look, we'll finish up there. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and make sure you go back and look at the old videos, because we're going through this book page by page. And if there's something you've read in one of his books, maybe we've answered it in one of the earlier episodes. So we'll finish up there for today, and we'll see you next week.